It involves our old friends at the Taxpayers Alliance, one of the motherships of opaquely funded organisations that somehow managed to make their way into almost every studio and newsroom in the country. Leo Benedictus is the journalist with the independent fact-checking charity Full Fact, and he joins me now. I mean, there is a line in your report that I'm very tempted to begin with, but let's build up a little tension first, if we can. £8 billion on woke projects, Leo. That's a terrible old business, isn't it?
Well, £8 billion is a lot, I think, by anybody's measure. I mean, I should certainly say that we're not in the business of determining what counts as woke and what doesn't. So people are totally entitled to their views. But yes, the Taxpayers Alliance did some research and made a list of projects that have been funded by government grant funding by UKRI, which is essentially a big umbrella organisation that sends funding money down through various other organisations to different projects. And they found a list of 26 projects that they considered woke and added up how much they cost. And that's how it made its way into media in this way. But they didn't cost £8 billion.
Don't spoil it yet. Before that, we're building up to it. I want people to take a guess. If £8 billion wasn't quite the correct figure, why don't you send me a little message? And remember, you might have heard this story and you won't have heard the correction. You might have read this story. You won't have read the correction. So £8 billion is the figure, right, that they claim. What do you think the real figure is? Start texting me your suggestions on 84850 or WhatsApp me. On the usual number 03456060973. Leo, what made your antennae twitch over at Full Fact? What made you think, hang on a minute, this seems a little bit high, and we will find out how high shortly.
Yeah, we're giving people a clue there, aren't we? I mean, the true answer is lower than £8 billion.
Spoiler alert.
That was my first reaction. I mean, yeah, £8 billion is an enormous sum of money, but these numbers, they do get people, I think, get kind of blind to them. You know, we work with them every day, but however many millions, however many billions, the governments do deal with those kinds of numbers all the time. But, you know, the NHS annually is what is about sort of 180 billion. Sorry, I'm doing it myself, or something like that. So, you know, 8 billion is really quite a significant amount of money. And yeah, when I saw that 8 billion was being spent on woke projects, I did think that's an awful lot. I'm not sure I believe that, and started looking into it. Yeah. I mean, I should say that there is a line in sort of down page in the Sun's article, which gives a little bit of context here. They do say that 8 billion is the total amount of funding that goes out through UKRI altogether, and that only a portion of that goes on the woke projects as identified by the Taxpayers Alliance. But yeah, it's...
And it was on the Taxpayers Alliance own Facebook page that they actually wrote, we revealed with The Sun that the government has squandered £8 billion on woke projects, such as studies in the ontology and ownership of internet dance. So you're right. I mean, you could, if you were feeling generous, claim that The Sun had, despite sticking the figure of £8 billion on their front page, that they had qualified it slightly in the text, but no such qualification on the Taxpayers Alliance Facebook page until you got in touch with them.
Yeah, I mean, they did correct it pretty quickly once I told them about it to the correct number, which we'll hear shortly.
James suggests £2.75. I'm not sure he's taking this terribly seriously, but
yeah,
it's a little bit higher than that. Go on. So they claimed £8 billion. It got picked up by Times Radio, Radio 4, who should know better. I suppose in their defence, they did it in the newspaper review. Some journalists are tweeting and posting it all over the place, various other media organisations, if they count as such. One of them doesn't really have any listeners to speak of. But if the correct figure was not £8 billion, Leo Benedictus, I feel like Jeremy Clarkson now on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. What was the figure?
The correct figure was £10.4 million. And now, you know, some of your listeners may immediately react to that by thinking, well, that's still a lot of money. And from a certain point of view, of course, that is still a lot of money. But the difference between 10 million and 8 billion really, really is a lot. It's a hard thing, I think, to grasp immediately. But I did some advanced maths for you, which I hope might be useful to illustrate this point. It's often easier to understand these things in terms of duration, periods of time, than it is sums of money. So if you imagine we were talking about seconds instead of pounds, then 10 million seconds is about 4 months, give or take.
Yeah.
And 8 billion seconds is more like 250 years.
Oh, this is fantastic. And do we know how they managed to make such a terrible error? Or is it's the entire research and innovation budget, which isn't even annual, is it? Some of that is going to be spent on a rolling basis, not all within a single year. And they have presumed that the tiny examples they find of things that they don't think we should be spending money on accounted for the entire budget.
Yeah, I mean, this it does get a bit complicated how the budget is distributed per year, but yes, the total budget for UKRA is in the region of about 8 billion in each of the last few years. How that's distributed around these projects is slightly hard to say, but yes, it's something like that's what they spend every single year on absolutely everything is 8 billion, and the portion that the Taxpayers Alliance consider woke is about 10 million, which is, yeah, to put it again very clearly, an awful lot less.
The line that I wanted to open with, but prefer to build a little tension, is this. After contact from Full Fact, the Taxpayers Alliance corrected this post and replaced £8 billion with £10 million. That's not an accounting error that you'd get away with in many other lines of work, but I don't expect it to alter in any way the season ticket that some of these people seem to have into BBC and other studios. While I have you, Leo, what about the story in The Sun last week about us sending Porsches to Albania?
Yeah, so that was the day before they mentioned it. They had a couple of articles actually on government waste, and one of them did mention the government sending Porsches to Albania. This is actually something we looked at the previous week when we saw it on social media. There's an element of truth in here, but basically it's not true. The government didn't send Porsches to Albania. They sent Volkswagens, which is, I guess, sort of similar, but not the same. This is a deal that the government did with the Albanian government in order to sort of exchange Albanian prisoners for cars, essentially. Albanians who were in jails in the UK were sent back to Albania, and as part of the deal, the UK government sent some electric cars to Albania
as a sweetener for the government, not for the actual prisoners. Before anybody at the Sun starts writing another article, I don't know how long it will be. I don't know how long it will be before I take a call on the programme in a week or a month's time, and they cite this article. Not yours. They cite the Sun article or the mention that they heard of it on Radio 4, because that old line about a truth, a lie is halfway around the world before the truth has got its trousers on. So in that context, the work that you do has arguably never been more important. How can people find out more about Full Fact, Leo?
Thank you. Yeah, I mean, our website, fullfact.org, you'll find all of our fact checks on there. And of course, you can follow us on all the different socials. We've got accounts here and there where we keep updated on what we do. I mean, on that point you mentioned, you're absolutely right. It's one of the issues here. I think we often see about headlines, even though the article contains a sentence lower down that sort of makes clear what they're talking about, although it doesn't actually include the 10 million figure. The headline is what people see. That's what people remember. You may well be right. And the fact that we could immediately actually use some AI tools which helped pick these stuff up. We were able to scan what people were saying on the radios and found that, they were very often taking this 8 billion figure as read. They didn't read the whole article.
And of course, on social media, it's just a screenshot of the front page anyway. So there's no opportunity to read further into it. And that is even more than halfway around the world. Leo Benedictus of the independent fact-checking charity Full Fact. Many thanks for your time.